Present.
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 We have tonight a board work session that has been on the forefront really for a number of months, but certainly has become more apparent over the past several weeks. And that is mental health as we continue to make our way through the pandemic. We touched on our faculty, our staff, our leadership, our students, our families, and Meridian is here to do a presentation for break and restart the second semester if those things that we can, especially doing better to mitigate the obvious stresses on mental wellness that are occurring. I think everybody in this board and everybody at the table has witnessed issues involving anxiety and stress in the past nearly 2 years. And so, Lisa, are you ready to go? Okay. The floor is yours.
I think everybody got a copy of my PowerPoint maybe in your packet. Do you have the copy of it? Okay, awesome. I'm just going to kind of go through some services that we have at Meridian Health Services specifically that might be helpful. And when I say this is something we have in place already, but we're more than willing to look at what's needed if there's something different that we can do for the teachers or for the schools. So specifically related to support groups, any kind of individual services that we can provide, any of those things, we want to just be accessible and ready for people. So at Meridian Health Services specifically, you know, we do all kinds of things related to mental health services. And I put the 5 T's for mental health education in schools on here. I think that slide, is it up? The second one. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to kind of talk through these a little bit because there's so many things that we could help with specifically in all 5 of these areas. So talking about mental illness, providing some education, some flyers, posters, that kind of stuff, just so that the stigma is not out there. We can't get away from it completely, but definitely helping within the schools to help with those kind of things. Any kind of open sessions, not for the teachers, but for the parents too as well, and the kids as we move through. This comment specifically about morning announcements and things like that related to mental health and how we can just help people with that too. We're more than willing to write some scripting that is associated with that, or we can be on that too as well. We want to do anything that we can to help with that. Training for the teachers and the staff to be able to identify, and we're more than willing to help with that as providing them information, what that looks like. Resources on site, of course, we're doing that already, but we could, you know, boost that up a little bit too as well to help the teachers. The third one is about teaching and teaching the students at different ages about mental health. Sometimes we forget that part. They may be having problems with it, but when the acting out occurs and things like that, it's real important that we're getting to the school, to the students specifically, but also to the teachers about what, you know, may be happening and what's occurring at that time. Providing tools, specifically in this, it's real interesting to me that they note that most of our schools are around 1 counselor to 482 students, and that's probably very accurate, maybe a little low in some areas. It really should be around 1 counselor to 250 students. So something that we really need to work on. And when I say counselor, I don't mean a behavioral clinician. I mean a licensed therapist that really needs to be able to get involved and help that person with some psychotherapy or individual one-on-one services. There's some other things that we can do too as well, some mindfulness activities, some relaxation activities, some physical exercise, just educating people about that, different types of art activities, and then educate people about breaks and timeouts and those kind of things. Not that it's a seclusion or any type of restraint like that, because that's what's thought about sometimes in mental health, but definitely just being able to communicate that to the teachers that it's okay. It's okay that we take those kind of timeouts and breaks. So. And then it's all about taking care of the teachers too as well, that there is some type of workplace wellness. And again, that can be an open time where teachers can come and discuss what's happening, get resources, get support about what has just occurred, debriefings about things that may have occurred. I know with us being in the schools and in the clinics, we know that there are altercations that occur sometimes. Teachers have been hurt. It's real important that we follow up with them directly, immediately about what's happened and help for, you know, to try to prevent that from happening again. And then any kind of teacher mentoring or anything like that, we definitely want to help with as well. And mindfulness, again. So I just wanted to go through those 5 areas because it kind of completes everything about a lot of things that we would be able to do. within the schools. And again, we can build this directly for the schools. I don't want people to think, well, you provide that service, so that's what we would be asking for. We want to build it around what the schools and the teachers are needing. So, so mental health first aid is something that we already provide. And what mental health first aid does is it helps someone who is developing a mental health disorder, helps us to understand that, helps us to understand the mental health crisis and the emergency that may be taking place, and how to identify, understand, and respond to the signs of mental illness. And many people may be familiar with that already. We do a lot of that service within the community in teaching people about mental health first aid, but we're willing to do that in the schools too as well, as often as needed. The training consists of a 2-hour online self-paced component, and then followed up by a 4-hour in-person virtual live component where we're directly there. And a lot of that's about talking through situations that have occurred and how we can help people as they move forward. An online evaluation and then a certificate upon completion. So more than willing to offer those trainings too as well. Trauma informed, people may have heard about this before too as well, but you know, many of our kids, I'm sure, have had trauma throughout their lives, some of our teachers too as well. It's really important that that's identified up front and that we are doing something about that. Specifically, our relationships are not good if we don't address the trauma that people have had. And again, triggers can happen with anybody from the kids to the teachers or the other way around too as well when trauma has been a part of their life. So we can provide a training specifically too on trauma informed. We've already done this with the Jay County schools, already have it put into place and everything, so more than willing to put that together too as well. The next slide that just says connecting trauma-focused language, this is just a little bit of information about what we do with that trauma-informed, kind of giving you an example, and some of the wording that we use too as well, like cooling the room, you know, try to avoid any type of blaming language, that kind of stuff. It just gives you some information kind of about what that trauma-informed looks like specifically. So trauma-informed is an evidence-based practice, so it's really nice that that has been cleared in that area. It's used in a lot of different agencies, specifically the National Council on Behavioral Health recommends it, and that's where we get our most updated information and partner with them. So does anybody have any questions about that so far, or anything you want to share about what's going on with the teachers that maybe I'm not covering, or something else that we might be looking at to help them? Yes. That is. Specifically at Southside or throughout the whole schools? I don't have it with me directly today, but I can sure get that number for you. Sorry about that, but it's quite a few. It's quite a few that we've been able to train so far. It does. It does. Mm-hmm. Sure. And we're more than willing to do that on weekends, whatever's, flexible or convenient for the teachers. Yep. Sure. And that really is the only training that has a requirement of how many hours we have to do. When we do the trauma-informed, it can go much quicker. So.
Can I ask just, what, it's a hard question to answer, I think, probably by both of you, but how prepared are teachers in general for that kind of knowledge? Do we get, typically, does a new teacher come to us that has some background? Maybe I ought to look at Britt. But what is that part of the curriculum for most of our teaching staff to some extent?
So I would say different colleges incorporate it into classes in different ways. So sometimes it's the professors or the faculty that are teaching. But when you're in college and you hear about it and you read about it, that's very different than when you're starting to live it with a class of 20 or 25 students.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Quick question about the metric. You said we have 1 per 480 students.
That's usually the average of what we're seeing across the nation. That was just information stats,
sorry.
but it really should be 1 to 250.
So what do we have?
And we're in better shape
Mhm.
than that. And so, our high school, we have 1,400 students and we have 4 counselors. At our middle schools, we have a little over 500 students and a little less than 500, and we have 2 counselors at both schools. And then we have
Two at each.
2 at each.
Okay.
And then we have a counselor in each of our elementaries, with the exception of Southview. Their counselor resigned in the middle of the year, and Anthony has not been able to identify a counselor to replace that person.
So we truly are in pretty shape compared to the average.
Right.
Okay.
And we do have the addition of Meridian Health Services at Southside and then at some other schools to bring on counselors too as well.
And then we also support our schools with behavior coaches
Mhm.
in several of our schools, which is very, I would say that's pretty unique to Muncie if you looked across the state. So that's another way that we're trying to support our teachers and our students and our administrators.
Mhm. Absolutely.
But what I would say is they would all say, thanks for the support, but still not enough.
Right. I would say so too. Yeah.
So with the mental health first aid, is that still ongoing, or is that pilot over?
It's ongoing. It's ongoing.
So are we still in the process of training
Yes.
personnel?
Yes. And
How many at any one time?
we can do, it depends on how many instructors, and usually we have 2 instructors at a time doing each class. So up to 20 in the class can be in their 1 to 10 ratio per instructor. And even when that support runs out, we'll still continue to do that. That's something that we do throughout the community anyway.
So with your presence at Southside and perhaps elsewhere in the community in a broader sense, what's Meridian seeing in terms of numbers, in terms of manifestations of mental health issues?
So our volumes are outrageous right now, and I could probably say that about other agencies too as well. Just coming, and we're not coming out of COVID, but that little bit of time that we did, we started to see a lot of underlying things that were going on related to mental health, but substance abuse too as well. A lot of people are reaching out, providing the virtual services has been really good too as well, but there's still many that need the face-to-face services. And when I say our volumes are outrageous, it's throughout the whole state. It's not just here in Delaware County. Just people really struggling with the isolation that's occurred, but then with the uneasiness, the anxiety, the depression, all of those things. I think with some, in the school we've noticed at Southside, just coming back into the school after being out for so long has just been a huge transition, and it's still not to where it needs to be 100% of just the kids just not there yet. They had too much time, I guess, out, with COVID and everything. So still really working with a lot of the teachers and students. We see students come to the clinic that are just struggling too, as well, and parents too, across the board.
So what, from your perspective, what things can this board do moving into second semester with the schools that might make a difference?
I think definitely talking about it. Sometimes it's the elephant in the room, but nobody says anything about it. So I think first is talking about it in different locations, that we identify that it is a problem. And sometimes that's all we need to say for a few people to step up and say, I am having trouble with it. Can I get help? So identifying, but then making services very accessible, such as the mental health first aid. The trauma-informed care is very important too as well. And then any individual that we can, individual sessions that we can provide for people is very important too. Many won't want to come to a support group. They won't want to do that type of therapy, but they will reach out to somebody if they know that it's convenient, but also private too, and that things aren't going to be shared in a location where they feel comfortable to go. And those would all be things I would recommend that we're able to do for the teachers. Hopefully that answers your questions.
Well, I was just wondering about some of the notes I've made were building-wide education sessions where you're just saying, okay, this is what anxiety looks like. This is what depression looks like. What you're feeling is normal, and here's where you can get additional help.
Sure.
Those sorts of sessions, so that people don't feel alone in what they're thinking and feeling and going through, I think.
Sure.
And I know resources are not, infinite.
Right.
But I think that's one thing. One of the suggestions that's been made in years past, one of our students made it, was areas in our schools where de-stressing could occur. Peaceful colors, fish tanks, beanbag, just little things that sound, maybe a bit odd, but someplace to relax. Have you seen that being effective or not?
I have, I've worked in different places throughout my career, so there have been different kinds of rooms that have been set up where people can just go sit and relax. Sometimes, like you said, there's different lights, there's rocking chairs, there's that kind of stuff, that it's just a time away, a de-escalation room, just a time away to be able to be by themselves, or sometimes with somebody else in the room too as well, which is okay. And again, just that they have open opportunities to go to that anytime, to be able to just kind of take a break from everything that's going on. So yes, absolutely, those are some things that we could put together too, in collaboration with the schools.
Do you have any literature that just distills down, say, 10 tips to feel better?
I actually just Googling about teachers and some of the things, there are many things that have that. Just what are 10 things that we can do for teachers, just kind of immediate things, but also some longer term things. So there's a lot of information out there about that. In our Trauma Informed that we built specifically for the schools, that's an area that we talk about too as well. Just real quick tips of what can a teacher do when a crisis occurs.
And what are some of those?
Some of them, it depends on what the situation is, but it is talking about not going right directly towards blaming, trying to step out of the situation and look at what's going on directly, counting to 10, just the very simple things. Specifically, removing yourself, asking someone else to help, because you're not always the person that needs to be helping with the situation. I'm trying to remember some of the others. I read through them directly, but there were specifically just 10 things real quickly.
Anything that talks about, just for instance, breathing.
Breathing, absolutely. Counting to 10, relaxation, just taking a few minutes out, walk outside. I mean, whatever that they are able to do to take a break. So yes, just those simple things definitely help to bring somebody down.
So Mrs. Bales had brought this, I think all of us have been aware of it, but she had been talking about ways to recognize faculty and staff in small ways. And I'm wondering, is there other things that we're not thinking of? Is there, besides feeding them and sending nice notes and all those things, is there something, is it a couple times a week where, we have rotating times for people to go out and take a walk around the campus? What are you, I know you work with a lot of large organizations. What are they doing to emphasize wellness of their employees?
Sure. I think sometimes we offer those and we tell people that they're available, but there's times when we have to force it too, to say, okay, during this time, this is what we're going to do, rather than saying during this time, this is available.
Right.
So I think it's very important that there are walking sessions, exercise sessions, those kind of things, that this is available, that everybody takes a break during this time, that it's a fun time, that there's different things that are done. And sometimes we have to make people go to those things because they get so caught up in their task, they won't let it go and take time for themselves. So I think some of that, making sure that things are scheduled where you do it, that we have to do this and we move forward with it. And again, just making sure that those things are available to everybody. I think the recognition part is huge, that people do need to be recognized for what they do. So much of the time we focus on things that aren't so good and really need to figure out and look at all of those things that are really good and make sure that we're recognizing that with the teachers. So. And often, and immediate, I would say too as well. It loses its effect if we wait too long on the recognition. So things that can be built in daily to recognize people is very important too.
Has Meridian put together plans with schools or organizations, I mean, in this time of crisis, for lack of a better term, that deal with systemic proactive steps to be taken on wellness? And if not, would you be willing to do that?
I would not say we've done that directly. We've had some training and education, but yes, we would be willing to work with agencies to put that together. We would not want to just come out and say, okay, this is what we got and this is what we'll do. We need to know more about what they're needing, what they feel like would be helpful for the teachers too as well, and then build it from there. Absolutely.
Well, have your folks observed some of this already down at Southside?
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, we try to help as much as possible because, like I said, the altercations do occur. We do see that, and not as much anymore. I mean, when school first started, maybe slowed down in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but really touching us and people being injured, those kind of things, the kids and the teachers, not severe, but enough to where it's a trauma, definitely a trauma. So we have seen that within the areas. We do have behavioral health in the school, so we offer that too as well. And our nursing staff definitely help with that to help calm the situation and help them.
Other questions?
Yeah, I do. I want to go back to the students and the parents. How do
Yes.
we get the word out to the parents, what resource we have available? And the follow-up question is, do you find that they accept or they're reluctant to accept the fact that they might need to provide some support for their child in terms of this opportunity?
So I know information is distributed through the weekly information, and we provide that to them. It's an email that goes out to all parents about what we are doing. We have found that it's been the face-to-face stuff that we've done at Southview, and that spreads quicker than anything does, of just really making sure we're there for the parents when they come in. Of course, for any of the patients that we see, we have to get a parent's consent, specifically if it goes to the next level. So that's a face-to-face that we see them to as well. So it's a huge opportunity for us to really build that. And we've done that a lot with the parents. So like to increase that in the other schools too as well. Did that answer your question, sir?
did, thank you.
Okay, sure.
And just as Lisa mentioned, that we have a nurse and then the behavior therapist at Southside. Beginning January 3rd, we're expanding, and she'll be getting into both East Washington Academy and also Southview, and that will be able to give additional services to those schools.
Right.
They practiced for a semester, and now
Yes.
they're ready to roll out.
We are ready to move out. We've hired the nurses already, which has been really nice. We've not had any problems with having nurses come on board for us for this type of service. So I think a lot of them are looking for Monday through Friday, 8-hour days, and kind of stepping out of the hospital role right now. So we're taking advantage of that. Absolutely. So we're more than willing to meet with a team to develop something specifically for Muncie Community Schools, hearing more about what may be happening at the other schools and develop some type of plan, programming that we can provide for the teachers.
So, other board members' thoughts on something systemic? I'm just brainstorming in terms of going into the next semester. Leanne?
I think that, it would be probably good if we would have our principals even have conversations with teachers regarding, if there's something we could do for you, what might that be and what would that look like, and we could get feedback from them too.
It was on first aid, that whole thing I know is self-paced and 4 hours or so. What's happening in that 4-hour session?
So we provide information specifically about this is what anxiety looks like, this is what depression looks like. We talk about suicide, going to that point too. Then we do some role playing. There's some different things that happen there too as well. There's an evaluation, of course, that occurs, but during that 4 hours, that's a big chunk of what it is. Yeah.
But in the self-paced is also doing something else. doing some of that same work in the self-paced, you just take it to the next level.
Yes, yes, yep.
So are all teachers, or, I mean, what's that's offered? Are we saying this is something that we feel is really important, that we need, teacher needs to go through this, or every teacher needs that professional development around mental health?
Yes, I mean, Jenny has sent the information out numerous times encouraging teachers to participate. Feedback we get, the ones who have participated feel it's very valuable. But a lot of our teachers, the same with coming back and having full classes last year, with so many kids doing virtual learning or being out, this year with full class sizes, it's been an adjustment getting acclimated again for our teachers, I would say. And, they sometimes asking them to do extra outside of their work time is just right now more than some of them want to do. And so that's, when we ask, why some are not participating, it's that's just one of the barriers. Offering it during the school day is a barrier also because our sub rates are Dylan did such a great job having them extremely high, and now we are not alone. Across the nation, people are struggling with substitutes. There have been districts that have had to move to e-learning because they didn't have enough substitutes to cover classes. We haven't had that happen yet, but we know we can't pull people for professional development during the day.
Go ahead.
Like our academic innovative plan, with like our pillars and our foundation, I give all of that, I give it. So we're going to talk to the social worker, but I'm just thinking if we could really invest time, I don't know how, the teachers, faculty, staff could go through some of those trainings. A lot of the things that they deal with the kids in the classroom, right, that will be mitigated and if they have the tools that they needed to be able to themselves handle their own emotions and then deal with the kiddo. So I know it's a vicious cycle, but there is just a way that.
It would seem to me that I think asking teachers, I mean, and maybe we start with master teachers and mentor teachers who, can at least extrapolate a little bit what they think their charges feel. I think the risk, I think it's great. I think we're going to have to decide how we can invest here because with the learning loss, when you start stacking up what we have that we have to work against, we know that it's going to take some extraordinary work to make up the learning loss. We know that it's going to continue to take care and feeding and attention to teachers so that they can do that. You all as administrators going to be the same way. We haven't really talked about that, but when you have that level of responsibility for a long period of time, it can create some real challenge. So, I'm kind of thinking, we probably need to put together some sort of a strategy and it's going to come with a price tag, and I think that's going to be an investment that I think we need to make, for all, 350 teachers or whatever number of teachers we have, and staff, because I think you're right, Watasha. If we can skill people enough to just de-escalate or reduce a couple of challenges each week. That's just more time that the rest of the students, more time that the teachers can do their job and not be distracted. So, boy, I wish there's no silver bullet. I know that, but I don't know.
We have a good team. I think we get enough people, and I agree we can.
To your point, Dave, maybe this is a question back to you. You've seen over the Indiana, is there a model that's already existing? You can look at it, massage it for here.
Yeah, I have not seen anything other than, people using the mental health first aid and the trauma-informed care specifically.
I did a little bit of looking this past week, and there's a lot of folks wrestling with this issue.
It is. It is.
And one of the things that I have seen, which I think has some currency if it's done thoughtfully and with some structure built around it, and that is wellness days, a couple, 3, 4 wellness days where and involving the students. I mean, faculty, staff, and students, we have wellness days. And how do we plan what those consist of? That learning continues, but it's going to be focused on wellness. And that's what I was driving with something systemic that, okay, here's the program, and we're not going to ask somebody to go after school and do this. We feel strongly enough about your well-being, and maybe the first day it's just faculty and staff. Maybe it's the first 2 days, but I would be more than willing to support something like that as long as it were done in a way that was very thoughtful and approached it in a manner that first prioritized getting our teachers skilled up and our leadership skilled up, and then involving the kids and families thereafter. And I just think I've witnessed it a million different places in the community around the state when I'm working. Tempers are short. People are on the ragged edge, and to think that that's not occurring for our students, our faculty, and in our schools is nonsense. It is. And it interferes with the mission substantively, and it's not going to go away without some significant effort. So I don't know what's the university, I know you guys are talking about it, but
We are, and I was going to ask Brittany, I know we've had discussions that our student population in higher ed is increasing in terms of mental. It's a big issue.
There is no strategy or structure university-wide yet. I do stuff in my class and have anyways, because there's just not a lot of mental health supports for college kids anyhow. But I did mental health stuff at the beginning of every single class this semester because it was just glaringly needed.
well, I adjunct a higher ed law class once every 4 semesters, and I've received more requests for extensions and excuse absences this year than the other 4 or 5 years combined.
Yeah, I think
From
that's
students.
important to note because we're talking about adults who have fully developed frontal lobes. When we're talking K-12, we're talking about students who
Right.
cannot regulate emotions and
Yep.
don't have the capacity to ask for an extension. So we have a whole different beast.
And I think that's where it came to, that's one of the reasons we wanted you here, was to brainstorm this issue.
Sure.
I do think there has to be a more systemic approach taken district-wide. If you look at the numbers and COVID today, it's, continuing
Right.
to be an issue. And people are feeling not only that, but economic pain and other issues. So I would like to see the leadership, Leanne, talk about some strategies that are both remedial and preventive in nature.
Can I ask a couple of clarifying questions?
Sure.
You talked about the open time where they can come just discuss workplace mental health in general, and that can be convenient and confidential. Do you offer virtual sessions? Is it one-on-one? What could that look like for our
We do.
staff?
We offer virtual sessions, and people seem to really like that, to be in their location. They
Yeah,
feel
I was just
safer.
thinking at the end of a school day, it wouldn't,
Sure.
you could just stay at the desk and
Right.
do it right there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then the one-on-one sessions too as well. We have, a different location that's not right out in front of the school. It's in the back of the school, specifically at Southside.
Right.
So very important. I mean, that's probably the main thing, that people just feel like their information won't be shared, people won't see them, and that they can go to a location. And usually after a couple of times, they feel very comfortable doing that, whether it's virtual or the face-to-face, so.
And then how many hours was the requirement for the first aid?
It's 4 hours, I think, total. 2-hour online if you do a self-paced component, and then followed by a 4-hour in-person virtual live component.
So
and-
theoretically,
theoretically, our early dismissal days over a couple of months, we could do that.
over a couple months,
Mhm.
yes.
So for the benefit of everybody here and watching tonight, what percentage, if you know, of people who are suffering from some anxiety, depression, something else, suffer in silence for a long time, thinking there's something wrong with me that's unique to me, and don't say anything about it. What is that percentage?
Oh, that would be hard to say because they are silent, specifically about it. Like I said, our volumes are really high right now of either that person identifying or family member identifying and getting them connected. And we're seeing more and more families connecting people with, hey, my brother, my sister, my mom and dad are having trouble. We really need help with them. So I don't know that I have a number, I'm sorry, on that percentage, but
I'm assuming that's real.
yeah, oh, it's very real. Yeah, absolutely.
And so those who out there are watching and may be feeling burdened, stressed, depressed, understanding they're not alone and there are places to get help, that's critical.
Right. And we tell them to reach out to anybody, whether it's a family member, or if they're going to a dental appointment or they're going to a primary care, it's a good time. There's usually questions asked there too. It's not just about the service that they're getting right then. If they ask you about depression or anxiety, tell them, yeah, I'm having trouble with that, because they have procedures in place to get that person to the next level of care. So it's a hard thing to answer. And sometimes they will tell us no specifically, but their body language is not telling us no. So it's really important that we're identifying that too as well.
So with regard to the trauma-informed care, have we done any of that with MCS?
Not that I'm aware of. We haven't
We
directly.
also are partnering with Ball State University, and we have Ball State University ambassadors that are coming in. I believe we have 10 of those, and they are assigned going to different schools. So they work with multi-tiered system of support teams. They work with teachers and with students, and that's been in place for a semester. I believe Jenny said some of the interns next semester, they won't be part of that class anymore, so we'll have fewer of them than we did the first semester.
Okay. What about verbal conflict resolution strategies?
So that's through our CPI training that we have, all of our schools have CPI teams that they've run through training.
And how active are they this year?
You have to, they're all very active, I would say, and you have to go through, is it yearly training, Chuck?
Yep.
To keep up on your certification with that.
We have a district trainer that does that.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a broken record here, but just listening to the answers to those questions is very encouraging to me. The question becomes, what do we need to do to make it better? I mean, what do we need to make what you all have already know needs to be done? What do we need to do to
I have a thought.
enhance it?
As you were discussing the option of a wellness day, I imagine that you envision that that'll be a structured event, but knowing teachers pouring from the empty cups like they do, I think an ideal wellness day for an educator is one where they have opportunities to plan with their other teachers, to grade, to really just have that time while they're in the school to do things that maybe aren't scheduled, aren't structured, don't involve the students at that moment. Because I can pretty confidently say that if we go to our teachers and ask them what they need, it'll be time and money. And so I think for them, a wellness day would really just be time.
Like even in the orientation process, before teachers hit the classroom, like are there things like that they have orientation that is involved in kind of, I don't know, training or mental health? Like are there themes or is it just no training? Nothing that can be like, this is something that you need to do during the orientation phase.
We do, I mean, we have our structure where, as administrators, district administrators, we meet with all the teachers. It's a 2-day orientation, but a lot of the information, they then go to their principals and meet with them, half a day. And then the other part, they're trying to get into their rooms. We have just added a financial section there because a lot of the teachers, just from the feedback, were saying they needed to know, 401ks and all that. They have not expressed that mental part, but that is something we can absolutely explore and see what we can add during the orientation.
Well, I think that we have teachers right now, and anecdotally, I'm receiving some information, as is Leanne, and I know Mark Irvin brought this to our attention, but who are struggling mightily, and they think it's them. They think it's unique to them, and it's something that they've done wrong, that perhaps they're in the wrong career, that they are mismatched, overmatched, and understanding that their feelings are not unique, and that there are tools and coping mechanisms to address them, I think is critical. Now, even doing all that, some people will want to do something else, but that's what I'm talking about in terms of those teachers right now who are sitting at home going, oh my gosh, I'm a miserable failure. And that's wrong. It's a false message, but that's the message their brain is sending them.
I also think, back to Natasha's question, we're doing a 2-day compact and a lot of information. To me, this needs to be something that's ongoing, because they're overwhelmed those first, not only 2 days, 2 weeks of school, that they're really not thinking about that. This is something that we need to look at to see what can we offer them long range, throughout the year. I know that our principals also have a lot of things that they do. They take new teachers, they have ongoing after-school meetings with them or early morning meetings with them, just with them, so that they don't feel afraid to ask questions in a, open forum. And so they do have this orientation that they're doing constantly throughout the year. But I don't think that the mental issue is really center in front.
I mean, it can be wherever, but just that conversation about mental health, you ever just going into a classroom, dealing with others, I don't know what you talk about, you know what I mean? You get a stack of stuff when you're anybody in orientation, but is that mental component ever a part of any kind of conversation at this entry of the new employee?
I could honestly say with the planned 2-day orientation.
No.
Keith, what are you seeing?
Well, yeah, I think the key, and we kind of talked about it to some extent, I think the key is to try to help people, number one, know that there is help, and without, quote unquote, forcing the help, which would draw a barrier with people, make it available. I mean, in my world, a lot of times the solution just isn't chosen. And I was thinking about myself. I've always been kind of a get her done kind of mentality guy. And so I've had to admit these last couple of years, it's been a cumulative effect, that I've been affected by all of this stuff. I'm just dealing with families constantly, dealing with grief constantly. I can mentally, at least I think I can get over the reality of what I got to do, get stuff done, so to speak. But it's affected me. And I think our challenge, of course, is to maybe, and it's kind of been said, create some opportunities within the time that is quote unquote normal for teachers to be at school and things that they consider to be part of their job, but yet weave in some of this mental health assistance where they're getting it as they're doing what they consider to be normal for them. And so those are kind of my thoughts. I think that's the challenge that we have as leaders, to try to help them in their own way, help themselves, and to kind of like when you have a child, you need to eat this spinach. It's like, no. But if you put a little sugar or a little something on the front, they may take it. And so that's our challenge is to try to, we know what's needed to some extent in terms of the end result, but how to get it delivered is the deal.
Anybody have anything else? Mark, anybody? So, Leanne, would you be willing to see what we could put together, and we'll take it up? Thank you for, do you have anything further? I'm sorry.
No, I did give everybody a copy of our magazine, just kind of a highlight that the story on the front page is specifically about the Southside School and the clinic, and then there's some more information within. But I just wanted to let people know about that too as well. And
So Meridian would be willing to work with
Absolutely.
leadership to put together something.
absolutely, anytime.
Okay.
In Meridian and our partnership with Ball State, having
Yeah.
conversations with teachers and our principals, we'll be able to create something.
And I think I would, with the risk of belaboring the obvious, I think I would prioritize it. And, if it takes 2 or 3 or 4 days out of instructional time, I think it's probably worth it.
So I just want to remind everybody, we have so many days of requirements for
Right.
kids to be in school.
Yep,
And so that's just some of the reality of what we,
absolutely. Yeah.
I believe we could find days for kids and adults.
Yep. I think kids can and should be part of it. So,
Jen's gonna teach a class, and Dave, and we're gonna go in there, we're all gonna go in.
I've already told Leanne I'm gonna teach math when I retire. She's already hired.
so
Thank you very much.
thank you, Lisa. Okay. Anything further before we adjourn? Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Sorry, honey.
Yeah,
Right? Now look, it has a line.
Oh, right, exactly.
My secretary. Okay, so when you go up there.